So it's truly an honor to be here today and to be amongst this inspiring group of people who share a passion for greeting cards. You may be wondering why I'm here today, so I wanted to share a little bit about my background to give you context from my perspective of our industry, both in North America and in the UK. My history with greeting cards is lifelong. As our company, Schurman Retail Group, was founded by my parents in 1950, yes, before I was born, in this house in Berkeley, California, where all the people who love Sunday Assembly seem to live. It was truly a house of cards. Beginning in the kitchen, the distribution and inventory departments were stacked in cartons along the wall, and the sales team were my parents, who marketed fine art cards imported from Europe to local card shops. So much like Hannah's story from earlier today, really starting from nothing in 1950. Some of my earliest memories growing up are of gluing cards into salesmen's sample books around the kitchen table. My parents are both European immigrants, and as a first-generation American, I'm a hybrid of cultures, which has given me a unique appreciation for the global aspects of our industry. In fact, my mother grew up in England since the age of 11 and spent a number of years living here at 68 Princes Square, where we toured together on holiday, coincidentally the year before I started in my role at Clinton's. Little did I know it would be home away from home. As such, the influences in my life and career have been framed by my mother's UK sensibility and cultural affinity. And so it began that my parents started Marcel Schurman Company, named after my father, importing and distributing fine greeting cards as a wholesaler, first from Europe, then the UK, and ultimately from around the world. In 1973, my mother extended the business into retail in a 300 square foot store, which has grown into what is now known as a global brand, Papyrus. Here's a photo of the first Papyrus store that was upstairs in a small neighborhood area in our local town. No one ever thought it would be a success. And in fact, I remember sitting in the garden and my father saying to my mother that she had no chance. She didn't listen, which is a good thing. Our roots have always been in cards, stationery, and paper. And my mother would say that she pioneered the idea that greeting cards are like small works of art that need to be merchandised full face as though in a gallery setting. Working in this store as a teenager was my first experience learning about greeting cards from a consumer's point of view. So my personal journey has given me a unique vantage point of the blend of the old world with the new, and I've gained a deep appreciation for all aspects of what we in the industry collectively do together: design, editorial, production, wholesale, and retail, all with the ultimate goal of touching people's hearts and enriching lives through our brands, our products, with art, creativity, and writing. Going back for a moment through the archives, we remember some of the classic greats that my parents introduced me to that go back to those early days. I'm sure many of you remember as well, and it's great to know the essence of these companies are ongoing. Fast forward now to today. As many of you know, I spend about a third of my time here in the UK, and I also own Schurman Retail Group. My frequent journeys across the pond give me an opportunity to experience both markets on a real-time basis. And as retail is now my focus, I try to think of everything we do from our ultimate consumer's perspective, the consumer, and I will share some of these insights with you today. We live in a complex world made up of complex individuals with complex, multifaceted needs. The pace of our world today is accelerated and amped up beyond what we could ever have imagined even 20 years ago. Our challenge and our role in people's lives is to offer a sanctuary, an oasis of inspiration that link us together with tangible connections. Greeting cards enable our ability to genuinely connect with other people. Going back to Mesopotamia 5,000 years ago, people felt compelled to communicate through the written word or symbols and pictographs. really not that differently from what we do now. The drive we have to create lasting, heirloom-worthy connections is why we are inspired to do what we do. I'd now like to share a brief video that captures the essence of why.
Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? And why should anyone care? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because it's easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, our marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Yeah. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done, that's how most sales is done, and that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do, we say how we're different or how we're better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You're ready to buy a computer from me. All I did was reverse the order of the information. What it proves to us is that people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it.
People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Each of us has our own personal why, and for me, it starts with this. Does anyone know what this might be?
Oh.
A box. It's a box. How many of you have one of these at home? A box on the shelf or in a closet? Yes? A few? This happens to be my personal memory box, filled with treasures that I cherish that capture the magic of why. I want to share a letter written by my great-great-grandmother to her daughter that endures through the generations in my personal memory box. This letter brings me back to my heritage, and I can remember at this moment when my mother passed this treasure on to me. The message written still resonates today, more than 150 years later. Simplicity, my daughter, is the constant companion of innocence. So may you choose simplicity in your words, your dress, and in all that you begin. Avoid the artificiality, which does not bring happiness, but instead distorts. Stay simple and good, my daughter, and you will be joy to your parents and create the greater happiness for yourself. As you read these words, dear Trudy, remember always your dear old mother. And then to a more modern connection given to me by my mother 15 years ago, just because, letting me know that she understood the challenges of being a young mother trying to balance family and career. Few words, much said. And then a note from my very best friend for over 40 years, celebrating our friendship with a few meaningful words. We're so lucky to have friends like you that enjoy living the life the way we do. And on my 40th, a dear friend reminded me that lying and denial would get me through it. The remarkable blend of art and message is the magic that we create. capturing the emotion and the imagination of our customers, inspiring them to spark and punctuate connections with others that will endure through the generations. And now a few statistics. As I compare the North American and UK markets, there are some differences, but remarkably more similarities than differences. We are bound together by many of the same motivations and a desire for personal expressions. I will share a few high-level directional, not empirical statistics compiled from various sources that shed some light on our industry overall and what we share in tastes and trends. The good news is that despite the technology revolution and all of the naysayers, we are in a growing industry. In fact, in the UK, the industry is growing at least 3% and potentially up to 7%, as Jed shared this morning. As evidenced by the slide, and I'm sure no surprise to all of you, the UK is the highest per capita greeting card market in the world, with 39 cards per year per person being exchanged. This is a wonderful fact, one that provides us with an incredible platform for creativity, expression, and expansion. The markets in total represent over $8 billion in retail sales. Truly a staggering number that amplifies the fact that people love to connect with people in meaningful, lasting, and personal ways. An email just simply does not replace the deeply rooted need that we have to genuinely share our feelings with others. The channels where people shop and the composition of the sales is somewhat different between the markets and can also vary depending on how certain retailers are classified. However, as you will see in the following slides, the venues themselves have much in common. In the UK, the grocery market represents about 29% of the business, where in the US it is somewhat less. But common to the grocery channel, the cards are densely merchandised in 14 or more rows, with caption being the primary motivator for people to shop. Colorful point of sale is key to draw interest to departments, and only in a high-end grocer would you see a full presentation, such as in Whole Foods, which is a gourmet grocer in the US. In the mass channel, the US has a bigger percentage of shoppers. This segment would include retailers like Target and Walmart, as well as drugstores, mainstream department stores, and dollar stores, where huge units are sold. In the UK, the segment includes drugstores and the likes of Card Factory, and similar to the grocery channel, these environments all have up to 16 rows of density in their card departments. In the specialty channel, the UK dominates, with this being the single largest channel, very consistent with a high consumer interest in the category overall. In this channel, we find predominantly full-face merchandising, which my mother would say she invented, and smaller curated assortments, more reflective of an owner's favorites as opposed to a comprehensive selection in a mass setting. This platform also enables the hundreds of boutique publishers in the UK to thrive, thus enhancing our industry with fresh and new creativity. And now to tastes and trends. A comparison is sometimes hard to make, but here are a few of the examples that compare and contrast the markets. In fashion, we have a stylized approach in the UK as compared to a more trendy twist in the US. For modern traditional, we see a very similar approach with patterns, classic icons, and handmade touches. In this case, we see the UK approach as more text-driven on page 1, whereas in the US, for niche occasions and captions, we tend to have a more general send. Here is a simple anniversary in the UK, very classic, leaving the recipient to write some of their own message as compared to the US, which is a more sentimental approach. Photography is very popular both in the UK and in the US. Here again, the UK approach tends to be more humorous, with the US version more sentimental. In this example, in the UK, all the text is on page 1, whereas in the US, the opposite is more common, with a full image featured on the front and text on the inside. Contemporary styling tends to be quite different, with the UK spin being bold and colorful, and the US more minimalist. And for kids, the UK tends to be more licensed and age-oriented as compared to the US, where many of the cards for kids are general in nature. And now onto humor. Animals unite us. There is something consistently funny about animals that we share in common. Alcohol is universal, as are jokes about body parts. And indulgences rule. Age jokes are especially good when combined with dogs. And in the UK, I would say humor does have more wit and subtleties as compared to the typical US vulgar humor. But then again, I would say this is a close tie. One of the other differences that I just wanted to highlight very briefly is that in the UK, there tends to be more selection in niche captions, thus supporting the higher demand per capita. So son and daughter-in-law to be versus a general engagement card. Oh, wow, I got music too. Next one is to a son on his confirmation day as compared to a general confirmation. Girlfriend, very specific. This is obviously a more general send that could be for either a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and the reverse. So you see a common thread here where in the UK there seems to be a real interest in very specific caption and messaging, and that continues all the way through with this final example on the prom. To a daughter on her prom, I must say in all of my years in the US I've never seen a prom congratulations card, so that's pretty special. In the seasons, there's also some differences. In the spring seasons, specifically Valentine and Mother's Day, in the UK it represents 11% of total card sales. In the US, only 7%, and this is really driven through the Mother's Day season, which is much bigger in the UK. And then also, most notably, in Christmas, pretty remarkable that 22% of total cards purchased in the UK are single Christmas cards, compared with only 10 in the US. And conversely, on boxed cards, only 5% in the UK and 11% in the US. And again, implying the same trend of a much more specific demand for individual captions that are more tailored versus a general send. And in terms of real estate and footage in a store, a typical store in a Papyrus, for example, would not have more than 12 feet of Christmas. Even the biggest retailer would have up to 36 feet. And at Clinton's, we have up to 100 feet or more of single Christmas cards. And they are popular indeed. So very much in demand, which is very exciting and very different from the US market. We're privileged then to be working in an $8.2 billion industry and growing. And if we estimate that the average card, on average including packaged, sells for about $1.50, that means there are 5.6 billion cards exchanged per year, on average 14 cards per year per person across North America and the UK. Bottom line, greeting cards are for everyone, friends, lovers, and for people who just love. The written word is something we can hold on to, save, and cherish. The spoken word is transient, often forgotten, and the emailed word is mostly deleted. So greeting cards, ink, paper, art, and words are the spark that inspire us to keep the torch alight for 5,000 years and counting. Customers love our why and share with pride their big receipts of purchases in card shops. And now I'd like to read a touching testimonial that again illustrates this point. This is a letter I received not long ago. Dear friends, I would like to share with you a story of how your lovely Papyrus cards have touched this 80-year-old lady's heart. I have a 53-year-old daughter, Ruth, and she began sending me a Mother's Day card each month 2.5 years ago. The cards are all Papyrus, each one more beautiful each time. She said, "You are my mother, each and every day, and I honor you each month with a card. Isn't that amazing? I thought it was amazing. So together we share in the responsibility to evolve, to inspire, to break new boundaries, and to engage with the people who share our passion to connect and to communicate. In closing, I leave you with a few parting thoughts. Love, friendship, and compassion are powerful, profound human qualities. Genuine connections between people are precious and priceless, and a deep desire for companionship and camaraderie is enduring, transcending spiritless communication and lasting for generations.